In the winter of 2020, China experienced localized power outages. In 2021, a wave of shortages affected 20 provinces, and the Northeast region had complete blackouts. Now in 2022, the power shortage in Sichuan is shutting down the lights of other cities as well as the worldwide supply chain. The famous Shanghai bond turned dark. Companies such as Toyota and suppliers of Tesla, Apple, shut production to save energy. Beijing blames it on the heat waves. But China's energy crisis has been years in the making, and the writing has been on the wall. Hi everyone, welcome to Lei's Real Talk. I'm Lei. There are many reasons behind China's energy crisis. I don't want to oversimplify it, but I want to show you one aspect that isn't talked about by mainstream media. It has to do with China's growth model, which is tied to the CCP mindset. There are several reasons that explain why China's energy crisis is hard to avoid. The first reason for the energy crisis is the lack of proper energy use projection. In December 2016, the National Development and Reform Commission and the National Energy Administration estimated in its 13th five-year plan for electricity development that the country's energy consumption in 2020 would be at 6.8 to 7.2 trillion kilowatts. The actual energy consumption in 2020 was 7.5 trillion kilowatts. The discrepancy wasn't too significant because the pandemic and lockdown had kept energy consumption low, but the underlying problem is big. The Wall Street Journal questioned the validity of Chinese economic data and energy use in 2009. China's official 6.1% increase in GDP did not match the country's 3.5% drop in oil demand, nor did it match the unusually weak electricity demand. In the first quarter of 2009, energy consumption was down 4.02% year-on-year, but industrial production was said to have increased by 5.1%. The CCP's fake economic data has prevented the authorities from coming up with reliable projections of China's energy use. Secondly, the country lacks an early warning system for macro power supply and demand management. 60% of China's electricity comes from coal. From January to September 2021, coal mining in China grew by 3.7% year-over-year, but coal-backed power output grew by 10.7%. The growth of coal-backed energy output is 3 times the growth of coal production. This should have alerted the authorities about a potential power shortage, but China's 3-year rolling coal power risk warning mechanism doesn't cover coal shortage risks. Thirdly, Beijing's West Electricity Going East program created interprovincial conflicts. The idea is to have Sichuan, a western province that generates cheap hydropower, exported to eastern provinces such as Jiangxi, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. Sichuan exports 1/3 of its power and is China's #1 province in providing energy to other regions. But Sichuan doesn't have control over its generated power, and Beijing has a fixed distribution ratio that determines how much power Sichuan sends and keeps. However, Sichuan controls its economic growth. To take advantage of its inexpensive hydropower, it has attracted many high-energy consumption industries, such as silicon, photovoltaic, semiconductor, and raw material processing. According to Pengpai News, Sichuan's polysilicon production accounts for 13% of the national output. Lithium is an important material for batteries used in EV vehicles, and Sichuan accounts for nearly 30% of the national lithium production. That creates a problem. As Sichuan's industrial power demand surges, it competes for power with other provinces. But the province can't control its energy exports because the central government does. So Sichuan has no choice but to shut down its industries to save energy. This demonstrates the systemic conflict between local government autonomy and central government mandate. The CCP hasn't been able to sort out this conflict since it came to power. Local government debt is another example of this perpetual local versus central government conflict, but this isn't the worst of it. In Sichuan's energy structure, hydropower accounts for up to 70%. Hydropower requires water, but as the water level in Sichuan reservoirs is approaching an alarmingly low level recently, hydropower generation has suffered a dramatic decline. Since July, Sichuan has dropped its hydropower generation from 900 million kilowatt to 450 million kilowatt, a 50% drop, and it continues to drop at a rate of 2% daily. The official reason given is extreme temperatures and drought. While there is certainly a drought and less rainfall this year, it is not enough for the Yangtze River to be close to stopping its flow. The real reason why the Yangtze River is losing so much water is because too many large reservoirs have cut up the river into pieces. The Jinsha River is the upper reaches of the Yangtze River, with a total length of 2,308 kilometers and a 3,300-meter drop in the mainstream. 27 hydropower dams have turned the Jinsha River into the world's largest reservoir complex, with an average of one dam every 100 kilometers or less. 10 years ago, Hong Kong's Wenhui newspaper reported that the annual runoff of the Yangtze River had been decreasing. In 2012, the river was running between 9,600 to 10,000 cubic meters per second and was unevenly distributed during the year, with more than 70% of the water flowing from May to September. By October, the entire Yangtze River runoff was only a little more than 40 billion cubic meters, and the 40 billion cubic meters were only enough to meet the storage needs of the Three Gorges Reservoir. The article asked, if the runoff can only satisfy the Three Gorges, what about the dozens of giant reservoirs upstream of the Yangtze? The report explained that that's the reason why the reservoirs on the upstream fight over water. However, Beijing authorities ignored this. In the past 10 years, 4 mega hydropower plants were built in the lower reaches of the Jinsha River. Xiluodu and Xiangjia were commissioned in July 2014. Wudongde was commissioned in June 2021. The giant hydro plant of Baihetan was completed in May of this year, with a total capacity of over 46 million kilowatts, twice the capacity of the Three Gorges. Such massive construction of large hydropower plants has divided the Yangtze River into sections of stagnant water, cutting the once vibrant river into sections, drastically reducing its water flow and killing its animal species. On August 17th, the Vice Minister of Water Resources said that the Ministry of Water Resources had jointly dispatched dozens of control reservoirs in the Up Yangtze River, Dongting Lake System and Boyang Lake System to discharge water downstream. Since August, the Water Resources Department has discharged 5.3 billion cubic meters of water to the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River basin from a group of controlled reservoirs. The Yangtze River is the mother river that has nurtured China and the Chinese civilization for thousands of years. The CCP's brutal treatment of the river, by first cutting off its water flow and then discharging water through the dams, shows no respect for the environment, and people say the Yangtze River is slowly dying. Media in China are now discussing raising the price of residential electricity because the large number of EV cars in China is putting a strain on the electricity supply. I don't understand why people think killing fish in rivers so we can drive green cars is environmentally friendly. China dominates the world's lithium-ion battery market, and Sichuan has a third of China's lithium production. We must remember that the battery in our EV car is made at the cost of killing fishes and contributes to inflation when China raises electricity prices. I predict that China will have more power outages in the future. Those with an EV car in China will have to pay a premium to get electricity. This should serve us all as a warning. I made a video about China's water shortage. Here it is. Thank you for watching. That's all for today. See you soon.